Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. And for me, it's a particular pleasure to review a book from someone I have met and known. He tutored me when I did the bar vocational course. Probably doesn't remember me at all, but I remember him, and I was very grateful for the tremendous amount of support he gave me, what were now all those years ago. This particular book is one, and I've reviewed a number of John Sprack's works. This particular book I think is very, very important. It's part of a little series of books which OUP have produced as handbooks, which are wonderful for the practitioner. They have a house style of their own. This book is called the BLACKSTONE'S Employment Tribunals Handbook for the year 2014 to 15. It's only a small book. Purple cover, you see how small it is. Spine, and then there's a bit on the back about what's in it, and talks about John Sprack and what he's done. I can't say any more than to say I think this is a first-class book and just what we need. There's the index at the back. It's a very small, light book, 300 odd pages. There are some very useful schedules on Appendix 4 there. Appendix 2 has the ACAS settlement agreements, just running through it generally, and then you've got TUPE at the back there. You've got some paragraph numbering, which you can see at the sides. This is very much a hands-on book. There's a little bit of shading areas to make some things stand out, particularly when it comes to specific regulations that may be important. Age discrimination, another example, and so forth. Let's move to the front. There's the front cover. I'll run through this quite quickly because I want to talk about it in more detail. Now, John has mentioned in June 2014 why he's produced this work and what it's about. The handbook is aimed at all those who are involved in cases in the employment tribunals. Everyone. It's eminently readable, and I think that's very important in this area. There are the contents, the parts A, B and so forth, and part C. Part A is procedure and practice, part B substantive law, part C is remedies, then some appendices, then some cases, which you can see there, then some legislation, and then you get through. Though one thing I will show you, list of abbreviations. Again, I think very helpful because we all forget from time to time what some of these things stand for. At least I do, and it's useful to have it there at your fingertips. Tribunal procedure, we kick off straight away with the tough stuff. And as I say, it's a wonderful book. The rules then are set out. These are actually, this is dealing with costs, which is a big issue. Now, the tribunal system has gone through change, and there's been a lot of controversy about what's happened this year, 2014. The costs of making a tribunal application are very high, and haven't been any answers in Parliament. There was a question on it only last week, and I'm recording this review at the end of the year of 2014. Deputy Prime Minister's questions, and I think at Prime Minister's questions, people have raised the issue of how costly it is now to go to a tribunal. And in fact, things like the sex discrimination element of it have been in some areas for substantial comment about the number of cases that have actually dropped because people cannot afford the amount of money involved to pursue some of these cases. Which brings me back to the reason why we've got this handbook in the first place. The Blackstone series by OUP, the Oxford University Press, are brilliant in the sense that they give you the detail you need as the practitioner together with something that you can read and is readily understandable. No disrespect to the White Book and to some of the problems that throws up, but that can be extra complicated when you want something relatively simple at your fingertips. That's what you've got here. Now, we've given it the title. My wife Elizabeth and I have looked at this book, think it's wonderful. We've given it the title, The Definitive Pocket-Sized Guide to Employment Tribunal Practice, and that's exactly what John has produced. This is what we say. If some sort of constellation of legal textbooks exists, or existed, this latest title from the Blackstone's Handbook series would shine bright indeed. Small but exceptionally illuminating for practitioners and laypersons alike, and scarcely bigger than the average tablet phone, This little handbook is somewhat surprising, really, considering the range of material inside concerning the law and practice of employment tribunals. The handbook, says author John Sprack, is aimed at anyone involved in cases in employment tribunals, whether practitioners or litigants presenting their own cases, or those advising either employers or employees, whether legally qualified or not, and that includes human resources departments. The handbook, we think, is useful, therefore, for the HR professional and advisors at things like Citizens Advice Bureau, or inevitably trade union representatives or officials. But of course it's much wider than that, because as I said in my introductory remarks, this is a book for everybody. So it's not just confined to the rather more dedicated depth of the practitioner, if you like, but it's a much wider readership. Noteworthy for its clarity and conciseness, this is a legal text that favours clear explanations and a refreshing lack of legalese, which is what John Sprack's always been good at, frankly, because we reviewed a lot of his work, and he has that particular style which is really good and comes across. Its plain English approach, therefore, will render it immediately understandable and accessible to almost all readers, especially with its frequent use of flowcharts, tables and the box shaded areas which I showed you, designed to enhance understanding and ease of use. That's specifically relevant to regulations and statutes, because that's where you may start having the problems when you're doing a case, and that's really the practical hands-on expertise that you might want to have. Its compact size means, of course, that the focus is on key aspects and common issues of employment tribunal practice that emerge within situations that most frequently occur in tribunals. Those seeking further advice or further detail will appreciate a particularly useful feature of the handbook, namely that it contains numerous cross-references throughout to Blackstone's employment law practice, which we've also reviewed. And it's the leading work of reference in this field, which was published recently after the handbook. Now, the actual Blackstone's employment law practice itself is much more detailed. It's a paperback, much heavier, thicker, a lot of detail. This actually is not the idiot's guide, because it's not for idiots at all. It is actually the simplified version, and then you can cross-refer if you have to. For instance, if you might have a particularly pedantic chairman of a tribunal. Not that any of them are, of course, really, but if that happens, you've actually got the cross-referencing, and that does help. And certainly it's happened to me. So if it's happened to me, it could happen to you. The little and large, so to speak, duo of Employment Tribunals Handbook 2014-15 and Employment Law Practice together make a wise purchase for the employment lawyer, and certainly for any practitioner specialising in tribunals. And Sprack, whose impressive list of credentials include 11 years of teaching employment law at the Innsbruck School of Law, now known as the City Law School. I knew it as the ICSL because that's where I studied and read for the bar. And he also served as an employment judge for 15 years. He's created an authoritative as well as a concise work of reference, which is also a rather fascinating read. And it's one that can actually open up. You won't put it down that quickly because it actually flows nicely. And that's the beauty of a good advocate, that he can do that because he's made a sale, if I can put it that way. Anyone needing a compact text on tribunals that is accurate, reliable, authoritative and easy to use, especially when under pressure, should rush and buy this handbook today. And do, because actually that's what it's there for. It will make your life easier. The publication date is cited at the 10th of June 2014. Recording this at the end of the year, just before Christmas 2014. There it is again, spine and then the back. If you can see it, it's probably not that easy to see. Let's open it in the middle. Procedures, skeleton arguments and authorities. We've moved on a long way from a few years ago, but that gives you, that sets out again, that's an EAT practice direction in the shaded area there, which sets out, I know it's the type is quite small, but it sets out quite clearly what you should be looking to do. Hearings and judgments, again at the EAT. Then the substantive law area, employment status. I do think this book, it's not a long book, by any means 300 odd pages, not a detailed book in the sense of heavy. Fees, that's another area very important. You've got to keep up to date with that, and you need to look at the websites as well to keep up to date with it all. But as I've said, I'm very pleased with this book. This is the sort of thing we need, because I've said it before in a lot of reviews, we need to know where the law is. Ignorance of the law is never any excuse. It's always a bit of a fiction, because there's no way you can understand everything. The point is, you've got to know where to look, and you've got to know where to get the advice, and also whether you're advising or whether actually physically doing the operational job of appearing in court on behalf of a party. You've got to know what you're actually doing, and this book is the way that eases you in. It's also something which is there in your pocket, so that when you're actually there in court or in the tribunal and you need to have quick access because there's something you just want to think about very quickly, you can get it out. That's the beauty of these little BLACKSTONE'S books. I'm delighted with them. They work very well for a whole range of court activities, and John Sprack has come up with the goods here in a brilliant way. Thank you, John, and thank you to OUP very much. You make our lives so much easier as practitioners, and I know a lot of people would join me in thanking you, because we are grateful, believe me. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.